But of course, the reason that I'm here is very, very personal. And I assume it's personal for all of you as well. Either you've had, you've seen the effect of gun violence in your own lives, or you're personally invested in the future and the safety of your country. How many people here have been personally affected by gun violence? And an easier question, how many of you have a personal stake in the future of your country, either through the communities that you live in, through the families that you're raising? So it's a big deal. As for me, I was, I'm originally from El Paso, Texas. Like Allison said, I co-founded an organization called Americans for Responsible Solutions, and I'll tell you how that all came to pass. I had, I grew up in Texas, but then ended up spending about 8 years working for members of Congress on Capitol Hill in Washington. How many of you guys remember 2010? It was a tough year for Democrats and progressives, right? Well, me and my boss, along with over 60 other Democrats, lost our jobs. So I was sort of casting about looking for work. And I had the sense that my next job, my next mission, I wanted to be big. I wanted to mean something. I wanted to, work toward something bigger with somebody who had a really big vision for the country. So I was lucky enough to be hired by Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords as her legislative director. Worked with her over the course of December 2010. I started officially on January 3rd, 2011, and then 5 days later, she got shot in the head. I didn't know them that well at the time, but 3 of her district staff were also shot. One of them, Gabe Zimmerman, died. One of them, who was shot through the leg and the face, is now her successor, Ron Barber, congressman from Tucson. And another, Pam Simon, is a fantastic advocate in Tucson. 5 other people died, including a 9-year-old girl, and 12 other people were wounded. And before that point, I had never really thought that critically about, honestly, I had never really thought that critically about gun violence. After Gabby got shot, I went on the internet, and I was shocked to learn that 30,000 people die every year from gun violence in the United States. I had no idea. But at that moment, regrettably, we didn't do anything. Gabby was in the hospital for months. She transferred to Houston, where she did intensive physical rehab. She got out of the hospital. She moved in with Mark, who is still, her husband, who's an astronaut. He was still in NASA at the time. They lived together in Houston for the first time as husband and wife. They moved back to Tucson. They bought a house. They started their life together, thinking the whole time, what was their next step going to be? How could they move from their careers working in government, in the military, NASA, in Congress, to whatever the next stage would be? How are they going to have an effect on the face of American politics and society? And they weren't sure. They were working hard. Gabby spent 7 days a week doing rehab, and they were building a life. And then on December 14th, 2012, 21st graders and 6 of their teachers were murdered in Newtown, Connecticut, and they said simply, enough. They had thought about gun violence a lot, obviously. We all had. But we said, we have to do something. We can't be silent any longer. And I would bet that everybody in this room had the same feeling. Am I right? After Newtown? That, we had to stand up, we had to be counted. We couldn't be silent and go about our daily lives like that just hadn't happened. Politics couldn't be conducted as it had before. So we decided that we wanted to do something, but we had no idea what we wanted to do, honestly. And we had a lot to learn. So we started looking at the issue of gun violence, and we weren't really sure how we were going to fit in, because, you've got Gabby and Mark. Mark's a veteran, he's a gun owner. Gabby's a third-generation Arizonan.
a gun rights supporter, a gun owner herself. They weren't sure how they were going to fit into the debate. But as we started learning more, we looked at the policies that exist around gun violence, and we were shocked at what we found. Everybody here knows about background checks, right? So anybody know the estimated percentage of gun transactions that occur without a background check? 70%. I think people say, various studies have shown that only 60% of all gun transactions actually occur with a background check, meaning that if you're a criminal and you want to buy a gun, you have two choices, right? You can go to the gun store where you're going to have to go through a background check, and or you're going to go to the internet. You're going to go to a gun show, and you're not going to have a background check. So if you're a criminal, what are you going to choose? No background check, right? It's like you're a terrorist and you're at the airport, and you have a choice between going through the TSA security line and just bypassing it and walking on the plane. What are you going to do? So we thought that was crazy. We thought that was something that we could change. Then we looked at gun trafficking, and let me ask you a question. Let me give you a quiz here. Say you or somebody gets in their car, buys a bunch of guns, fills their trunk up full of guns, 20, 30 guns, and drives to like the worst neighborhood in the highest crime area in this whole country, flips open their trunk, it says guns for sale. 30 minutes later, your trunk is empty, your pocket is full of cash, you're driving away, you throw a candy bar wrapper out the window. What crime have you committed? Littering. That's nuts, right? We learned that while some domestic abusers are prohibited from having guns, if you are married to somebody and you abuse them and you have a misdemeanor conviction for doing that you're prohibited from owning a gun. But that if you are merely a dating partner and you do the same thing, then you are free to walk into a gun store and buy a gun. You're not prohibited. We thought, that's not right. That's not common sense. That's something that we can change. And then we wondered, well, how can we do that as gun owners, as people who have had political lives, have served in Congress, we've run tough races, we've won tough races, what are we going to do? And we looked at the sort of political reality, and we saw a gun lobby that had spent tens of millions of dollars a year opposing policies and legislation that the vast majority of Americans support. And we saw a playing field that was not level, not in the least, and we saw a narrative, a message that said that if you support common sense solutions, that you're somehow anti-gun. So we said we're going to do two things. First, we're going to say, no way, no how is anybody going to tell us that just because we don't want to have criminals to have guns, that we are any less supporters of the Second Amendment than Wayne LaPierre, because that's BS. And then two, we said, if the NRA is going to put up tens or hundreds of millions of dollars to cow members of Congress and state legislators into submission, then we're going to go do the same thing. So Gabby and Mark have been traveling the country. They've been speaking out. They've been talking about why they support sensible gun laws as both gun violence victims and gun rights supporters. And they've been raising dollar after dollar after dollar. I think many of you have probably kicked in a few bucks online, and thank you very much. And we hope that soon and then into the future that's going to make a big difference. But in the next year, we have our work cut out for us.